Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is Tuesday night live, a bit of a late stream for tonight. But I thought about not going live now, but I thought, you know what, I haven't done anything since Saturday. We had both announcements and stuff like that, so I thought it would be quite a nice time to just sort of reflect and look at what we've seen in terms of the selections for this weekend, and as well as probably the most entertaining press conference I've ever been a part of. If you have not looked at it, do yourself a favor, don't get anywhere yet, but after this, go and have a look at the Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber press conference this afternoon. Absolutely brilliant. And Rassie Erasmus, well, I didn't think it was possible for him to try and upset more people, but he really has. He's come out firing. He's playing the entire orchestra at the moment. He's playing Warren Gatland, he's playing World Rugby, he's playing the journalists, he's playing the media. He's having an absolute ball as Rassie Erasmus, and I'm really, really enjoying it. A lot of people are quite upset by it and saying that it's so he's arrogant and he's a nasty piece of work and he's lying and he's this and he's influenced, things like that. I think it's fantastic. I think if we want to grow rugby as a sport and you want to gain more following, you need big personalities. And Rassie Erasmus is just that. Warren Gatland's also a bit like that. You need these big personalities. You need your Steve Michael Checker, for all that you might not like his coaching and stuff like that, he was blockbuster in what he used to say in his press conferences, what he used to do. We need those personalities, those sort of personalities which give us entertainment, because at the end of the day, especially with rugby, we see 80 minutes on Saturdays and that's it. And then you have like a whole week in between of what do we look forward to? At least with like football and cricket, you're playing, throughout the week and stuff like that. And rugby, we only see one, maybe two, if we're lucky, 3 days a week. So it's quite cool to actually have some sort of a bit of beef or whatever you want to call it within the press conferences, a little bit of a jagged edge to them. And I'm really enjoying it. I think these war of words will be something that we'll remember the tour about. And especially given the fact we don't have fans, stuff like that, this has been a little bit of an added thing, seeing that it's all happening on Twitter and Rassie Erasmus, the whole Yako Yahan Twitter account and stuff like that. I think I think it's hilarious, still claiming that it's not him, and yet the account is producing full HD clips with no sponsorship logos, nothing like that. Who even knows how they get it? And then he says that he's a fan and he's just a friend of rugby, and he just sends us clips from time to time. I mean, it's brilliant. It's really it's so funny. But yeah, so in terms of what we're going to talk about tonight, the label of the video is the South African veterans, the Springbok veterans under the microscope. And we're going to talk specifically about our front row, because I think that has been the biggest it was the biggest selection concern last week. And ironically, it's now changed and yet remains the biggest selection concern. So it should be quite interesting. So what we'll see this weekend. So we're going to chat about that. We're going to chat about the selection, stuff like that, what we can expect, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, let's start going up in the comments and stuff like that. Let me know who's hanging out. Kenny Cooney says Frans Malherbe's overrated, one of the biggest disappointments in Bok history. Look, he was pretty solid in the World Cup final. The problem is, I think, with Frans Malherbe is that, look at him, let's be honest, he's not going to hit a half gap. He's not going to put in some unreal offload. He's a set piece tight end in every single sense of the word. So if he's not scrumming well, that's unfortunately pretty much the biggest thing. I mean, he makes his tackles. He's very solid. I'm not gonna just say the only thing he does is scrum, but that's his thing. That's what he does. MC says, think it's the best we could have selected. This will give us more go forward. And the clock I just feel more kicking. Connor Murray and coach who talk about back for you, reduce line, so more is taken away. Even got Swats, and then Contender says there may be a chance that PCF Toy might ship to lock in the second half of Marco Kwakhan from Moscow. It's a bit, yeah. We can talk about that. The fact that we got back to the 6-2 split. How are we going to use our bomb squad? It's a bit of a different bomb squad because last time we had two locks and the likes of Arceus Neyman. Now we've got two flanks, slash an eighth man, and a lock on the bench. And can you I'm one of those that have a ton of respect for Rassie, not just saying this is a monster. He really shows a high level passion, seriousness for the job. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, he's such a likable person, isn't? I mean, I think the people are sort of calling him arrogant and stuff like that. It's a bit of an overreaction. I think the South African fans in general overreacted to Warren Gatland last week as well. I think we're just far too serious at the moment. We're far too serious. If these coaches want to have a go at each other and stuff like that, that's fine. It's not like they're sitting there saying he's a bad coach. He shouldn't do that. I mean, what did Warren Gatland say last week? He must remember to take on the water, and South African fans had a meltdown. And now Rassie Erasmus, has had a bit of a pop at Clive Woodward, who was having a pop at things. And now it's like, how dare you type thing. I think we need to relax a little bit. We can have these no one's sitting there calling them ridiculous names, saying they don't rate them and stuff like that. But I think I think, first of all, I think Rassie Erasmus had to be in the press conference today. He even said himself, after all that he'd been doing on Twitter, for him to have gone and left old Jacques Nienaber to try and answer for those things would have been a bit of a dick move. So good to see that he was there to front up the questions and he handled them like an absolute pro. I said, if you're a football fan, Jose Mourinho, think of like Jose Mourinho in box office. That was what we saw today. And Juno says, I feel like the obsession with huge playing SO depriving the box from very talented players because they don't weigh 100 kgs. We do have a very big obsession with size, and it really needs to stop. That's what people are saying. Like, Sanena Humber should never have made it. And, people used to say Warren Whiteley was too small. How was that? Warren Whiteley was too small. And I think he was well over 100. He was about 100 kgs, 1.92 meters. And they used to say, let's call him Lauren Lightly. So this obsession with size in South Africa is so detrimental. As I said, you look at Cheslin Colby, you look at me. You're looking at Kwaka Smith. I still think there's quite a big role to play. I think we do need to just be a little bit less. Obviously, I think that our pack's always going to be our power, but it doesn't mean that you can't have those sort of exceptions which can come through. People are just jealous because he's actually won a World Cup, unlike Gatton or that twat Eddie Jones. Aiden says, bro, I hope I've helped carry the box to a World Cup. What are you about him being overrated? Even Philip Bockies, Mahoba is a scrummager, and that's why I brought him to sit Vunipola back. But yeah, it's going to be a huge battle between those two. Neither the kids of marks. It wasn't just Mahoba. Mahoba was great. He's off to a bad start this case to prove that he still feels fitness and conditioning too inconsistent. So let's start there, shall we? Let's start at the front row. So we have gone with, I think I've actually still got the team loaded up here. That's our team. So the big thing is that front row. Stephen Kitsoff, Frans Mahoba back in. So it's an all-Stormers front row. Wow. For now, Imanambi back off to the Sharks. So let's unpack this. It's two big calls. Look, Oxenchair is injured, so he wasn't available. But what I was trying to say in the preview, and somebody said, just because I say that somebody didn't have a good impact doesn't mean they're better. But what I'm saying, what I said is, I think that Stephen Kitsoff and Frans Mahoba suit starting a game. I think that when you start a game, it can take a while for both teams sort of get into the thing. Everybody's sort of starting from square one, and you kind of build into the game. So when you have that first scrum, it's everybody's first scrum. It's the Locks' first scrum. It's the other front row's first scrum. When you're sort of playing an open play, everyone's starting from ground zero and moving upwards. When you're coming off the bench, everything's changed a little bit. Even if you replace both front rows, the Locks have still played a full game. They've still been, scrummaging with the referees, making decisions, stuff like that. You still got a little bit of that. And it's obviously the open play. So I think, certain players suit coming off the bench to really good effect. And I think that Stephen Kitsoff, he did it in the World Cup. So I think that he can be a very good impact player. But I do think that Frans Mahoba, given the fact that he's such a solid scrummager, is probably somebody that suits starting a game where you can start, you can get those couple of early scrums when maybe the handling is a little bit taking a while to get through. You can grow into the game and stuff like that. But I think that Trevor is actually, I think he's a nice player to come off the bench. I think what we saw last week is we put our replacement front row on too early. I think we all know this. And they're now sort of double backing and saying that there's a bit of a injuries and stuff like that, which influenced that decision. But I think that I think that we know that we probably put it on too early. I think that we had a bit of scrum ascendancy, and I think that we kind of nullified the impact by introducing them too early. But the big thing is that the bomb squad in general is back. When you go with a 5-3 split, that's not a bomb squad. It's not. By definition, the whole thing about the bomb squad within the Springbok context was to be able to introduce, two locks, a new flank, and a front row, and they often did it in quite sort of short space of time. It would sort of be in 10 to 15 minutes. You could pretty much have an entire new pack. You're introducing 6 out of 8. The only players who would often stay on would be either P-Steph Toy and Dwayne Vermeulen or Siaklisi. It's usually 2 flanks that were staying on. So it was a whole new tight 5. That was the whole thing. It was a whole new tight 5. So that's why there was sort of that bomb squad effect. But so I do think that like Trevor, for example, I think is probably a better impact player off the bench than Frans Mahoba is. But the thing with Trevor this week is that he's covering loosehead. And I think that's quite a big call. I know he has played at loosehead. He's a bit of a convert and stuff like that, one of the many. But I think that, when you spend all that time playing tight, it's not an easy thing to sort of suddenly switch. So he'll be under a lot of pressure. And I think that he's been given quite a big job and quite a big backing to do it. But the problem being, with no Ox, for example, who are you else going to go with? You're going to go Thomas Toy, who's also a bit of a swing prop. You're going to go with other options. You've got Wilco Lowe's, who's a proper tight head. So you had Vincent Clark and Trevor, who are both swing props, can play on either side, but they have confirmed that it will be Trevor who will be covering the loose end, which was only announced after the video. So that's why in the video we weren't quite sure who was going to be who. So I think that Vincent Clark, Malcolm Marks, and Trevor Nyakani, I think that is a very good impact front row. I think Trevor brings a little bit more in around the park, obviously, than Francois Herbert with his ball carrying. We even saw him with a really good steal last weekend. I thought he was very good last weekend with Trevor. So I'm hoping that those three can come on with really good effect. But it's about the timing. It's all about the timing. That's what we need to make sure we get right. But yeah, so where are we? So Duna says those are the throwing brown stuff at France don't know rugby. Aiden says I agree very well. Whiteley was a super player and an even better captain. He's the reason why the Lions did so well in 2016-17. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is we were robbed of a really good Springbok career, because I think he would have been part of that Springbok squad. Would he have made the final, 23? I don't know. Would we have maybe gone with a different sort of 6-2 split? You could have added him in there. But he was a very different type of player, but he was a class act. I mean, I think it was the Super Rugby season of, I think it was 2016 or 2017, where he went the entire Super Rugby campaign. In fact, I actually want to try and find it. And he didn't miss a single tackle, And now people were sort of saying, "Oh, but he was making half tackle stuff like that." I'm sorry, I don't care. He was a really good player, and I think if you remember that Wellington game where he chased down Perinara, you could see the class. So I'm upset about him. I'm not getting the notification. That's very strange. Herbert is a better as a starter than as a bencher. Yeah, I agree. I think the replacement front row just came on too early last week. Agree again. Quacker might cover wing or centre if need. Yeah, I think he's probably with the pace he's got, he could. I wouldn't put him in the centres, but I wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't worry about him in the wing. He's certainly got the pace, if nothing else. I hope Herbert will be great when I'm form and fit is potentially the best in the world. I think he is. I think when Francois Herbert is scrumming to the best of his ability, I think he probably is the best tight end as a scrummager. I think he probably is. I don't think there are too many better than him. You can't move him. He's a fridge. He's just massive. So I think that he needs to have a good day, but he's under a little bit of pressure, and I'm hoping that he kind of rises to the pressure. Him and Kitsoff, because when you come on like that, and especially I think after. Everyone was sitting there saying that they were the best front row, and why didn't they come on? And then they did come on, and to very little effect. I think that all of a sudden there was a little bit of a maybe they aren't the best front row or whatever. So I think that's why they're under pressure this week, because they need to come on and have a big impact. Well, the starting front row need to have the impact from the start. Would you have played Mostert, or would you have started Lua Diago? I'd play Mostert. I don't know. I don't think you touched him at the moment. I think he's playing such good rugby at the moment. I mean, he's the top tackler last weekend. His line-out work is terrific. He's got the engine. So if there's one player will not run out of steam the entire 80 minutes, it is Franco Mostert. Even Etzebeth can go and empty the tank. Sia Khaleesi can empty the tank. P. Toy, even probably the second in that row, but he can also empty a tank. But Franco Moster's got a solid diesel engine on him, and he just doesn't stop. So I don't, and with his size, who's over 2 meters and 112 or 15 kgs, he's not a Lua Diago who's massive. So I think when Lua Diago comes off the bench, I think it does offer that little bit more. I don't really mind who starts, but I just think Franco Mostert is playing so well at the moment. Just don't touch him. I think we've got something that's working really well. One of the few things that's working really well is our line out, and he's defending really well. So sort of leave him be. Nikani can cover loose. Said he's been our captain on both sides. He is our Ofra Tungafasi. Yeah. See, he's playing. He is covering loose this weekend. Grant says, I'm concerned about Trevor playing loose this weekend. It's been years since the last time the big man wore the number 1 jersey. We'll come with the owl, come with the man. It's a must-win game. If players are messing up in the first half, would you make substitutions? It's difficult. Because the problem is if at 40 minutes you're bringing on most of your bench, I don't think you really get that bomb squad effect. You kind of want to bring them on 50 minutes. You kind of want to say, because at 40 minutes, when the Lions run back out, they'll still be feeling that rest. But at 50 minutes, 50 minutes of rugby starts catching up with you. So 50-55. you having that little bit of a break you had 50 minutes, that's now done. So that's when you start sort of wheezing, and that's when you put on your bench and say, right. But I think if you put them at 40 minutes, I think you kind of miss that 10-minute period where they're still feeling fine and not too tired, and that's when you're trying to exploit them. So I wouldn't make any substitutions at halftime unless I really had to. Do you think we'll win second test and third because we'll be more battle hardened? I'm very interested to sort of see the game plan we go with this weekend. I mean, and Jock was talking about the fact that he got a few things wrong, and stuff like that, and especially talking about Kwaka Smith, which I thought was quite interesting. And that's what we were saying in I think the player rating show, that he wasn't particularly going to the high ball, but he wasn't well helped. I mean, how often was he put under a lot of pressure because he was often mopping up other people's mistakes and stuff like that. So I think that it was a bit of a poor sort of setup and game plan with that. So and that's what a lot of people are saying, that maybe he continues to start, but you've got pieces of the toy under the high ball. He's a bit bigger and can take it and take the hit. Because I think and especially with Duan van der Merwe, if you're putting a big ball up and you've got Duan van der Merwe running at full tilt and saying to Kwaka Smith, listen, I want you to take this and you're going to ride the hit from him. I mean, come on. It's use the players you've got at hand. That's what he's going to be good at. If you want him to hit 3-4 rucks, across the field in a small space of time, that's what you can use him. But if you're going to play players who have certain skill sets, play to their strengths. You're not going to ask Colby to go and defend the inside centre line, even though his defense is pretty solid. When you've got David Linda, you're not going to do that. So, and that's what Jacques was talking about, the fact that he probably got a few things wrong. Grant says Frans Mahebe has actually been scrummaging really well into the last game. He's surely going to have a nightmare. I hope so. I think he's generally a very, very consistent performer. Contender says, I can speak from the Indicana prop that plays both sides. 2019 has a tight head, 2021 back to loose head. I don't envy you, mate. I stayed well clear of that front row. I would definitely have thought Thomas Toy would be a certain starter at 3. Where is he? I don't think he's never really managed to sort of step it up at a Springbok level to sort of force his way into contention. I think that I think France and Vincent are pretty settled. Trevor was in that mix during the World Cup. Remember that Thomas Toy was only called up to the World Cup because of Trevor's injury, so he's always kind of been on the fringes. Do you have Instagram? I do have Instagram. We've got Forever Sports Instagram, which is Forever Sports Online. And then I've got my own personal Instagram if you want to go and follow it, or if anybody wants to go follow it, that's Stevie P Sports. So if you guys want to go follow that, then go drop a follow. Yanks will not play if it's down to the wire. Pollard will stay on. So that's actually, so there's no fly off cover. So Pollard is expected to play the full 80, which I think is a bit of a risk. Thomas Story has not been scrumming well for the Sharks the few times he's played recently. I think that, him and even Ox to a certain degree were a little bit sort of a bit dicey. We kind of expected them to have done better. I would have thought Wilco Low would have been added. He's did so well for Harlequins. It was quite strange when he wasn't called up to begin with. I thought that having Cooney in was a very strange decision. But it's good to see Wilco Low's in around. The problem is with Wilco Low and Frans Mahebe, it's kind of like for like, isn't it? They're both very, very solid scrummagers. Wilco Low is just built like an absolute ox, you've got an ox now, so we can't really use that expression. We have to find something else, a bull or something. But he's just huge. Biggest thighs in world rugby. Williams is slotting at 10 or 12, is asking for trouble. 10 or 15, is asking for trouble. 12 is better for him. I think that's probably where they'll want him to play. I don't think they'll want him to come on at 15. They definitely won't come at 10. They want Village to play a full game, and I'm sure they'll want Pollard to play a full game if they can. Hooper says, I miss the warm fuzzy feeling when I used to get from seeing Vermeulen on the 15s list. Well, he's running water for the the Bulls on Sunday. If the English media want to blow that up as well. Kitov did mention they're struggling to get grip on the field with Lucev underneath. But the problem is, if there were two props that would understand that ground a little bit better, you'd think it would be Kitov and Malherbe. They've played there a couple of times. They're not based there, so they've had captain's practice and stuff there. So and at the end of the day, both people have to come on the same sort of surface. So I'm not sure how much I can understand. I'm sure it can be tough, but you would kind of be hoping that those two would be the better ones when it came to that. Ultimate Sharpshooter says, I'm not too concerned about Willems at 10, considering we play off 9 most of the time. All Willems has to do is punt up and unders or kick at the corners. His kicking game it kind of, suppose it depends on the day. His kicking game, it can be pretty good. It can be a little bit poor. Why didn't you stream the Bulls versus Lions game? I actually just took a day off, to be honest. Which sounds weird, but it was a long week where I had to work quite a few different work shifts and stuff like that. I mean, in between being press conference and stuff like that, and I was going to. But I got back a bit late. I was exhausted. And I thought, you know what? I'm actually just going to sit down and just watch a Lions game without doing this and just chill for a bit. And actually, I was much better for it. I think we've got such a big week coming up. We're going to be live every single day until Saturday that I took a day off. Apologize. I will be back for the Lions game and stuff like that. Now I just, look, in our defense, I would have been swirling a lot of expletives at the referee after that first half, especially when that pass forward from Christian was almost awarded as a try. But yes, we won't go. There wasn't a good weekend for the Lions. Good weekend for my boy Vincent Chituka, who had a very good performance back from injury. Grant Swart, the Polo goes off thing will be in trouble when it comes to kicking a goal. Yeah, David Vincent is good at a lot of things, but kicking it. And the problem is that, people are saying that we've got Colby and Faf, but I mean, that's the problem. You've got Colby and you've got Faf de Klerk. You've got nobody there who kicks for the unions, which, I mean, Damien Williams has kicked the most in his career at goal, but it's not a strength. It's why people have finally realized he's not a fly half and he's going to play inside center. He's going to play fullback, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Who knows what Quacker Smith's real name is? Albertus. I did. Apparently the whole thing about it is that he couldn't say his name or something like that. And then I don't know how Quacker came up. I don't know what the story is there, but yeah, that's where they went it. Were you happy with Munster man Damon Del Indy? I thought he did well, but he didn't seem able to unlock Lions defense, which was disappointing. Yeah, he was one of the 6 South Africans I put in the team of the combined 15 that I did on Monday. I put him and Lekanya look, I think Lekanya they both had decent games. I think they didn't have enough opportunity when the defense was really stretched. I mean, he got over the game line as he always does, but I mean, we're hoping we could see more from those two. But Damon Delendi and Lekanya, I think it's a world-class center partnership. I hope they get Dan de Peer back. He's solid number 8 and good backup for Muir. I think that ship sailed. I think that if they were going to keep him, they would have. Faf and Colby can kick. Colby can kick for goal. Yeah, but I know they can. In theory, it's great in theory, but do we really want to be seeing the 80th minute a 45-meter kick on the right-hand side and Jason Colby, Damian Willemse, and Faf de Klerk going, "Oh, cool, you're taking it." I mean, it's not an ideal situation, but I imagine they're all actually practicing. I imagine that they're all sitting there practicing their place kicking in case. Alvin Lincoln says we didn't lose by much and bounce off the wall was really against us. Box can only get better. I mean, I really enjoy where Jacques when they said, "What do you need to do better? And what do you need to do this weekend?" And he said, we need 5 more points. And I think that actually it was bang on, because I think people have been acting as if they got absolutely outclassed and hammered and was a thrashing. It was a close game. The fact that the Springboks were attacking in the final minute to try and level the game shows you it was a close game. It was not a walkover by any means. It was a game where the first half, the Springboks were all over the Lions, and the second half, the Lions responded really well. So I think that, people, let's not pretend that the Lions, just completely steamrolled the Springboks. They were the better side on the day. But, the Villy LaRue try stands with it. I mean, I don't think it probably should have, because I think the forward passed more than anything else. But if that try stands, for example, it's a whole different ball game. If certain penalties go to different ways. I mean, so I'm not going to blame the referee, because I don't think there's much merit in that. But it was that close, where a couple of decisions could have flipped the entire game on its head. So I think in that sort of respect, I think it will be quite close this weekend. There's no reason the Springboks can't go all the way. They weren't outplayed last weekend by a lot. Grant Box won the World Cup without backup kicker still baffles me. We desperately need to develop this role. Yeah, but you had Frans Steyn, so we did have a backup kicker in a certain degree. He is a good goal kicker. I would say the biggest stars go to Carly Sardi, but yeah, look, good shot. It's a decent shot. I think Carly Sardi is also somebody who could be in the Bok camp, but maybe we can have a bit of a comparison. We'll try and get that as a Forever Sports exclusive. We'll just get those two and 50-meter measuring tapes and see which one officially has the biggest stars. It's a loss to Argentina, so sad and disappointing. I was so gutted and I was frustrated, and the fact that 7th side, who loses to a side in sevens? You go down a man and come now. Surely you could beat a 6-man. And no, they come from behind to win 14-7 despite being a man down, even 2 men down at the end of it. So, yeah, let's not go there. But we're going 2 silvers, so Team SA is still on the routes. Any updates on Pure Dianti? Radio silence. I do not know what I've been trying to find out. We've been trying to find out. Last time I heard that they were talking about the fact that they can go to the Court of Arbitration in Sport and appeal it and stuff like that. It's so frustrating. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I think it was back in April they were saying they're waiting on a decision from the Court of Arbitration of Sport whether he can appeal his decision and stuff like that. Because if he appeals his decision, and they reduce his ban to like 2 years, he'd be available right now. He would be literally chuck him in the lines this weekend. So it's frustrating because I think that, you know, whether you believe he did dope, whether you believe, look, I mean, we know that he tested positive. That's not a debate. But whether you believe it was a case of him trying to gain advantage, I kind of sort of err towards more the thing that I think he was desperate to play in the World Cup. And I think people around him sort of try to rush it and try to use a couple of things which were going to try and accelerate the process. I don't think he was sitting in his room thinking, you know, I can't make the side unless I go and pump, you know, extra steroid and stuff like that. I mean, he was the world breakthrough of the year. The year before, everything he touched to gold. So he had everything to lose. I don't think it was a case of him trying to find an advantage. I think it was a case of him desperately trying to speed up his injury recovery. I think that's where it went wrong. You know, I don't think it's an accident that he was injured, died for the World Cup, you know, not coming back, and all of a sudden, boom, then he's failing a test. I think that's what happened. So whether you agree or not on the sort of circumstances, what we can agree on is that he's an absolutely sensational player, and I think that both the Springboks and the Lions, you know, can only be better with having him in it. And I think, you know, imagine your wing depth. You got Spin, of course you can't get into the side. Right, cool. Now try and drop a Pure Gianti, former World Player of the Year. So I mean, it's heartbreaking that somebody who had such a cool story, that World Cup was set up for him. It was set up. It was going to be a Pure Gianti's World Cup. Mapimpi was not going to score the first try for South Africa in the World Cup final. You know, Mapimpi Gianti was. That was the reality. I mean, Mapimpi wasn't going to move him there. I know that looking back and now, you think Mapimpi was phenomenal, but we forget just how good Gianti was. So it's a horrible story, and I hope that we do get to see him back in his best, because I think just from a rugby point of view, the game's a lot better having him in it. Grass Alton can kick. It's the other stuff I worry about. Well, he's not playing this weekend, so we don't have to worry about him at all. He'll probably still get rated about 2 of my player ratings. At the World Cup, we used to have France 10. Goalkeeper was not really a problem. I still think back to 2009, I probably should have said this before, but imagine John the Bull Hayes against Rio. Just imagine how classic that would be in the scrum battle. Yeah, there were a couple. I mean, I'm not really a scrum or purist. I think Lacania was more a scrum purist. He'll be on tomorrow night, by the way. But yeah, I think that look, when there's a good scrum battle, there's a good scrum battle. I enjoy that. Banned until 2023. Yeah, at this stage, 2023. At this stage, if we can try and repeal it, then hopefully back sooner than that. 4 to 5 other kicking options if Pollard gets injured. De Klerk, Mapimpi is. Look, I know he might have kicked for Border, but I feel like that's a bit like the Craven week, where like the 8th man's kicking just because he's the best. LaRue used to be a 10 in his career, Colby or Williams. So yeah, but I mean, we're stretching, you know, we're stretching, aren't we? It's not the same as Alton Yankees, who has, you know, almost 50 penalty goals for South Africa and, you know, over 100 Super Rugby. It's not quite the same as Morné Steyn. You slotted these in you know, the biggest pressure situations. So, you know, we've got people that know how to put a ball on a tee and kick it off. But if those are your options, I would be look, I'm not going to be particularly confident. You know, touchline kick, 78 minutes, Crafter Clerk's like, right guys, I got this. Maybe he does think, but yeah, it's not going to be a great option. We watched the game. Mapimpi was way more involved than initial thought. Thought played well, except the obvious penalty. Yeah, I just didn't have any ball. You know, at the end of the day, he had to run up and chase high balls and stuff. Pollard also missed an easy conversion and a penalty. Penalty and conversion he missed. He missed 5. He left 5 points out there, and 5 points I don't think he should have left out there. 5 points I don't think any international fly-off should leave out there. So I think Pollard's also under a little pressure this weekend. I thought he was very good in the first half. I thought that he looked pretty composed and looked fine. In the second half, almost a little bit nonchalant with those 2 kicks, and they came back to bite us, because I think if it's one of those things where you get those 2 kicks, they can't take that penalty. They have to go for a try. What happens then? It's a sort of small moments, really. Jim Backer says, why are France and Morné Steyn not on the bench? Well, because we're going with a 6-2 split, so we wouldn't have Mornay Steyn, and not going with France because we're backing Damien Willemse. And I still think, I think it's a case of that Georgia game, which kind of played France out of it. I think he just looked a little bit slow. So I don't know if that's the case. I think if they're looking at this British and Irish Lions team and thinking they're so mobile, they're so quick and stuff like that, we can't put France Steyn on. It's a very big call to back Damien. Live and die by that type of decision. Do you think they found the right person for start in terms of the bomb squad and what he brings to fill that 20 shirt, which the great Francois Lowe wore? I'll tell you what, if we lose a single flipping breakdown in that second half when we've unpacked the bench, I will lose my shit. If you send on Malcolm Marx, Markham Staden, Quacker Smith, you still have Damien Delinde on the field, and you lose a breakdown, I'm done. You cannot. The amount of breakdowns. I mean, that's three people. That is three proper world-class features on the field at the same time. So we should be winning penalties for fun in that second half on the defense with those three on the field. So I think Van Staden is he's not Flo in many ways. I mean, obviously Flo is a Springbok legend. He is the best veteran in South Africa. So in theory, if that's the role you want him to do, if you want him to come on and win a penalty and stuff like that, he's the best option for it. But he's also, because of the role he plays, very penalty. You concedes a lot of penalties, and as well Quacker Smith. People saying, "Oh, you concede penalties." We must have Malcolm Staden. Malcolm Staden will concede penalties if he starts as well. It's the nature of the role. You don't win every single break. You're not going to legally win every single breakdown. You will be penalized. It's. I mean, the fact that Mario Toja wasn't penalized, a lot of people going after him, but that's the kind of sort of situation. Being a fetcher means you're always pushing the envelopes of the law. So Malcolm Staden will concede penalties. Quacker Smith will concede penalties. Malcolm Marx will concede penalties. Anybody going over that ball will concede penalties. They'll win the penalties as well. That's the main thing. That's what we're hoping. But there's always that chance that they will concede the penalty as well. I don't know people who complain about Quacker's size, but he's part of a winning-lose trio for the Lions, allowed to play to his strength. Not even a winning-lose trio for the Lions. He's part of a winning-lose trio against the All Blacks. He was part of the loose trio that in the Barbarians and was one man of the match against the All Blacks. His credentials, I don't think, at the end of the day, much smarter people, people who are much more rugby smart, more rugby experienced than me, rate him. So if they're rating him, then I'm rating. So I mean, when people say, "Oh, you only like him because he's a Lions fan," well, Rassie Rasmussen and Jock Niedebar love him. He was in the Barbarians and he won man of the match. He's an Olympic bronze medalist for the Sevens, and he is a Super Rugby finalist. Yes, he got sent off, but he was phenomenal there. So I mean, Jasper Wiese is a very different player. So we might see Jasper Wiese run over a few players, but we also have to then say, right, Stephen Kitsoff, you need to get your hands over those balls, chap, because Jasper Wiese is not the same in the breakdown. So there's always going to be trade-offs. At the end of the day, the problem is we're all comparing to Dwayne Vermeulen. Now, you can't compare to Dwayne Vermeulen. We're talking about one of the best 8-mans the game's ever seen. We're talking about our talisman, our best player. It's like putting Ian Henderson in the side after last weekend. It's like putting Ian Henderson in the side and saying, "Well, why aren't you winning turnovers in the ball like Mario Toja does? Why can't you do that?" It's trying to think of another example. It's like replacing Intermac with a fly half or DuPont. Saying to another fly half, come off, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you just creating everything? Why aren't you the best player in the world? Because he just can't do that. Dwayne Vermeulen is so good because he's got everything in his game. He's a fetcher. He's very physical. He's reliable under high ball. He does everything. So you can't replace him. And the like-for-like replacement is maybe a Marcel Coetzee, but how can you justify putting Marcel Coetzee into that side when he hasn't been playing? Missed the SAA versus Bulls game. Missed the Bulls game this weekend. The last time he played, to my recollection, was in that final in Treviso where I thought he was horrible. So I don't think you can just call up Marcel Coetzee. It's the same reason you can't call up Johan Goosen. You play one game against the SAA, and on Sunday, he was decent, but he also made some mistakes on Sunday. He kicked the ball too long 3 times, but different rules apply to different people, unfortunately. So he throws a pass over his head, and now he needs to be in the box squad. So I think that there are certain people that you can sort of pick on reputation. But if Marcel Coetzee has not been playing enough rugby lately, which he hasn't, and that's what you can't say that Lizo Gqoboka wasn't picked because he wasn't playing enough rugby. You can't then say that Marcel Coetzee wasn't picked because he wasn't playing enough rugby. He then doesn't play any rugby, and you pick him anyway. So I think that's probably why you can't sort of go that sort of route. Would have changed Kwaka for Morne Stain. The Lions did not give box lineouts to drive from brilliant move from the Lions. And our mall defense wasn't particularly good, which is also quite uncharacteristic. So I think that's also something that they're hoping that putting in Frans Mahova in the middle might be a bit of a decent anchor. We had one very good mall defense, but that was really it. Springboks had Mapimpi, Leroux, Colby, Willems as some of the most exciting backs in the world. And a huge attacking threats, but unfortunately, Bok one-dimensional game plan sucks. Well, we'll have to see what happens this weekend. Let's also not pretend like the Lions didn't had this big exciting thing. I'm not saying it's the same players, but Anthony Watson's a very good finisher. Julian van der Merwe, is chasing Mapimpi for that type of sort of try scoring record. Stuart Hogg's a brilliant attacking fullback. Robbie Henshaw, Elliot Daly maybe not so much, but Robbie Henshaw's a very, very good attacking thing. Now, they're not at the same level, definitely not the same level. But they also had some really good players that didn't really bring into the game in the backline. We didn't really see either backline this past weekend. I mean, when it came to sort of picking a combined 15, it was kind of picking who the best under the high ball, because that was the most things that they did. Kwaka performance was average, small mistakes that you don't get from Dwayne, but yeah, as I said, I don't think you can compare it. We have Kiwi Ref this week. They tend to have more lean on fetches. Eskom will have a field day. Well, I mean, when you've got Richie McCaw playing for how many years, you can't exactly be very strict to the breakdown, can you? I don't think they have breakdown laws over there. Just love the fact that David Lindy is out at his peak now and has a centre partner who is flexible in terms of changing role. Lukanya Arm is just, I think it's funny because I think that it shows you the class of those two that we kind of. The Kanya Arm's in many ways underrated. Damien Delindy, because he's so big and powerful, and also Fetcher, he gets sort of a lot of the limelight. But I think the Kanya Arm is absolutely class outside him. He is the perfect player to have outside Damien Delindy. His defensive reads are fantastic. His distribution is sublime. So that whole thing of Damien Delindy bashing it up and then moving the ball to the Kanya Arm, and he's going to put in a chicken wing pass out to Colby or Mapimpi. He's phenomenal. He really is phenomenal. And I think that I'm hoping that he's going to be able to groom the next centers, and hopefully we can have somebody like Wandisile Similani taking over from him. Very different type of player, not quite as big or more of a step, but also very, very exciting on the attack and stuff like that. So we're very blessed with our centers at the moment. That center pairing is sublime, absolutely sublime. And I think that it's. I think Lukanya Arm's the best 13 we've had since Jacques Fourie. I genuinely do. I don't think there's anybody in between there who's had the same sort of effect. And Jacques Fourie, I mean, that last time we beat the Lions, where Jacques Fourie was playing there, he was probably my favorite player growing up. I absolutely love Jacques Fourie. Jacques Fourie, Andre Pretorius, those are sort of my big players growing up. Jacques Fourie had the biggest chest known to mankind. Rohan Jansen from Rensburg, the Sale Shark Center went to sort of the same school of workouts there. Agree, Box have great centers. The Kanya Arm is the best 13 in the world. Yeah, I tend to sort of think he's definitely up there, if nothing else. The Kiwis loved him. Tackled daily out of the line, starting 15, literally. I'd love to see Fassi play. I don't think yet. I think we'll unleash him against Argentina. I mean, it's a big ask to have players come in against the British and Irish Lions, especially, like for Jasper Wiese. Let's talk about that. He started one game for the Boks up against Georgia. This is now a second test. And he's been told, you need to go out and help us level the series against the British and Irish Lions. You need to go out and nullify, a Jack Conan, a Tom Curry. You need to get over the advantage line. You need to go and take. You need to be able to go and take Courtney Laws over the advantage line, over the gain line. That's the sort of ask we're putting on Jasper Wiese. So it's a massive, massive ask for him. And I really hope that he steps into the pressure, but we really have chucked him in the deep end. I think we're going to chuck anybody in the deep end in the number 8 jersey. It reminds me of Jacques de Villiers and Jacques Fourie. Oh, exactly. Those sort of iconic centre duos. The Kanyam is the best 13 we had in a very long time. Love him. I really can't think of a better defensive 13 in the world. Grant was agreeing with my sense Jacques Fourie. The pure surprise factor Fassi could work against the line. Yeah, it could. But I will tell you something. In that SAA game versus the Bulls, he was asked to make 3 tackles and he missed all 3 of them. So, in that sort of respect, it's so much safer to go with Viliru. I know that they've got X factor and stuff like that. It's the same thing as, is an argument we made. Do you keep a Roscoe Speckman around because he's something that can create something out of nothing? But to ask somebody of that age, stuff like that, right, listen, are you comfortable being the last defense if it all breaks through? I think Damian Willemse has proven himself more to this stage. I believe if he will play, there's no issues with that. We've got Argentina, we've got Australia, we've got the India tour. I think he'll get games. I'm not too worried about him. But I also, much like the Xhaka and Rassie aren't doing, I wouldn't chuck him in the deep end now against the Lions. If we lose this weekend, then we can. If you're playing for Pride next weekend, maybe you can. But yeah, I hope we make our dominance count with points. We tend to dominate set pieces, racks, breakdowns, etc. But not take the game away on the scoreboard. And the also Sharpshooter saying this is rather incredible, going from the Cheetahs to one season with Tigers and straight into starting 8 against British and Irish Lions. It's just funny how and everything lines up, because at the end of the day, that would not have happened if Dwayne Vermeulen was injured. I don't think he gets called up if Dwayne Vermeulen isn't injured, or isn't an injury concern. I think he was probably in the mix, but that's he wouldn't be playing this weekend if Dwayne was playing. So yeah, but it has been a fantastic story. Springboks are 13 tests behind the other teams developing our attacking game. We'll have a more attacking game in the next World Cup because we do have the players to do it. Yeah, it takes time. You also, it's also, I think, the fact that we haven't been on the field and playing a lot, it's difficult to then go and say, right, go and toss the ball around, chaps. Amandale, Lindy, Polish, Mines, and Noni and Smith. Willem says Similani midfield yard. I mean, I think that's the future. And if the Sigma Lions can just go and chuck 6 million rand at Dave Willemse, then maybe go back up here. But I think that Willemse, it sounds like he's going to be playing inside centre at the Stormers, which will be really exciting, because I think that he could become one of the best inside centres in the country. We need another inside centre, don't we? Who are the inside centre options? Look, there are a lot of them, but most of them overseas. If you think in the country, it's Cornel Hendricks, who was playing on the wing this weekend. So I think it's going to the United Rugby Championship. It would be nice to see Willemse playing week in, week out. I mean, he can play against David Indy, for example. Villiers is such an important cog in the distribution. Yeah, he's at the end of the day, when you've got somebody like Andre Pollard, who is he's not an attacking flower, is he really? He's a very solid flower, but he's not an attacking flower in the creative sense. He's not your Finn Russell, your Richie Mwanga, your Romain Intermac, your those sort of players. There's sort of a bit of a Mavericks. So that's where Villy comes in, because Villy slots in from the back, spots a bit of space, and he's got the creativity. He's got the ability to dab the ball in behind and sort of do those things. I'm not saying that Andre Pollard can't, but it's not his best sort of traits. Whereas Villy is very, very good at that. So I think that's why you have to keep him, because of the way he reads the game. He reads like a book, and he's got the calmest head and the shoulders. All the Bok players talk about the fact that Villy Leroux just never ever panics. So you need that composure on the field as well. Lion series is not about building depth. That comes after as we build towards Rugby World Cup 23. Yeah, well, I don't think any of the selections we made are really about depth. I think that Willemse is there because I think that they're worried that France can't. I think they think he can't cope at the moment. And I kind of tend to agree. I think that Georgia game was a bit of a game of, and if you looked a little bit slow against Georgia, what's he going to look like against Robbie Henshaw and Chris Harris, who I think is going to be a brilliant pairing this weekend. I think that's going to be a really exciting duo. I think Chris Harris is an absolute class act, very good defensively. So, I'm not upset with the France Stain shout, to be honest. I think that Willemse, the only thing that France Stain for me brings ahead of Willemse is his goal kicking, but that's it. And if you're planning on Pollard playing a full 80 anyway, if you're going to roll the dice, really roll the dice, and they've really rolled the dice this weekend. Phillips that sent us a genius, good kicking option. Can the Boks improve their fitness enough in a week to compete in the last 20 minutes, which is where and when the second test will be won? Plus, the Lions benches are far superior in terms of quality. I don't think. I mean, their bench is. So our bench is Vincent Koch, Trevor Nukana, Malcolm Marks, Lut Diago, Marcus Starden, Kwaka Smith, Hershey Yankees, and Willemse. And if we go and look at the Lions bench, their bench is. Sutherland, Sinclair, Owen. So I think front row, I don't think there's that much quality. I think Tad Byrne and Faletau are two brilliant players, but I think Faletau is someone who's not in particularly good form. I think Tad Byrne is a phenomenal player. I think he's playing some proper good rugby at the moment. But I do think that Faletau is somebody under a little bit of pressure. I think that he was probably expecting to start, and I think he was going to start. I think he was the favorite to start, but he kind of played his way out of the starting 15 because Jack Cohen has just been far more consistent. But I put it this way, watching Price, Farrell, and Daly run into the field, I don't get nervous. I don't think that they get so much better with those three coming off the bench. I think that Farrell's a very good player, but I think he's also not in the best of form. I think Elliot Daly is a little bit one-dimensional. He's got a very big boot, very solid, but nothing like, extreme or X factor. So I don't think they've got tremendous X factor in their backs coming in. I think Ali Price is a good player, but not sort of X factor. So it's probably Tadek Byrne and Faletau, which are your sort of two big ones. But I think that Faletau's not been as effective as I'd want him to be. Mapimpi constantly chipping on attack with incredible return, often a huge ground made. Yeah, I mean it's when you've got that sort of pace, you really can back yourself. Do you think Hurston should have played Elton Yankees? No, I don't. I don't think you get to play 2 games at Flower for the first time in 2 years and get straight into the Springbok squad and go into that position. I think it makes a mockery of the entire system. If Jaco Kriel goes and decides to play 2 games at 8th man really well in the next 2 weeks for the Lions, do we replace Jasper Wiese with him, or do we replace Kwaka Smith with him? No. So I think if Johan Hurston does what he's done now and goes and plays the entire United Rugby Championship at flower half, then he can be in the squad as a flower half. If you want to have him in the squad based on what he's been doing, it has to be at outside centre where he's been playing. And even when I say he's been playing, he's played like 350 minutes before the last 2 weeks. So I mean, he's played half the amount of minutes he has in the last 2 weeks than he has in the last 12 months. So I don't think you can put him in the squad. I don't think he's played enough rugby. I listened to Jacques in the interview, and if I heard him correctly, he said that this extra week was a massive boost for them to prepare. Oh yeah, they were saying that it's having that test match. I think having the test match is a big thing. I think that being able to get out there and play. I think they will be fitter. There's no. I mean, you can't not be fitter, can you? I mean, those guys like Andre Paul and stuff like that, they were in isolation. They weren't gymming and running and stuff like that. So they must be fitter. Whether there's much difference, I don't know. But I can promise you right now, I'm in horrendous shape. And if I go tomorrow until next week Tuesday and force myself to try and attempt a 5K, I'm not going to do that because I'll probably have a heart attack and die. But if I did that for the next week, there's no doubt by next week Wednesday I'll be a little bit fitter. I don't know how much, but so I think there must be a little bit fitter. But nothing else, not necessarily fitter. I reckon they'd probably be just sort of sharper, maybe match sharp. Do you think Evan Roos has a chance to play for the Springboks in the future? Oh, 100%. But again, not now. I think he's an absolute class player. I think we're looking at Pepsi Buthelezi, Evan Roos, Vince Tuka, Nama Klava. I think those. I mean, if you're looking at if we wanted to do an invitational or sort of next gen loose trio, I think that those are your players. But I also, I mean, even Evan Roos a bit. I mean, even Albert Lowe, for example. Evan Roos is also. He's had a stormy few weeks, but. Let's see what they do at the United Rugby Championship. I think that's the nice thing. We've got the United Rugby Championship where we can have September, October, and by the end of next season. So give these guys a United Rugby Championship. Let them go and play against these other sides. At the moment, Evan Roos has looked fantastic, but he's looked fantastic against, the Griquas and the Pumas and half a Shark side and a really poor Lion side at the moment and a Bull side who I think are going to get a lot better. If he's still doing that when all these sides are at full strength, then I think he will. I think he is the future Springbok. But when he's still doing that against all those sides, and he's doing it against Munster, and he's doing it against Edinburgh and stuff like that, then cool. But I think that we can't just you can't go on just 3, 4, 5. And I'm not saying that he's particular. I'm just saying in general. I don't think you can just go in a couple of things right and then suddenly boom. You have to be playing for a long time. It's not. Springbok caps are something you have to. I mean, there are players who play for years and years and years before they get their chance. I mean, I think that. Something like Warren Whiteley. Look at how long Warren Whiteley was playing before he got a chance. Jaco Kriel, for example, how well he was playing. There are some players who never got chances. So, it's difficult to get into the Springbok squad. It has to be difficult to get into the squad. So yeah, I think it's. I mean, Warren Whiteley made his Lions debut in 2010, made his Springbok debut in 2014. So it took him 4 years to sort of work his way up into box squad. So I think that these players are all very much on the fringes. I think the player who'd be the closest to the box squad for me would be Vince Tuka because he's been doing it for the longest. I mean, he's now into his sort of 3rd season playing at this level and still putting in big performances week in, week out. So I think that he's probably got the edge. But I think that Evan Lewis, Pepsi Buthelezi, Namaklaba can stay fit, maybe. I'm trying to think. Ulrich Loeb. I think Ulrich Loeb is another one. Very exciting, but it's his breakout season, and I think that we need to sort of temper expectations. It's so difficult to go and say to somebody, look at the Dupree brothers, and go and say to them, listen, I know you've been performing really consistently for the last 2 or 3 years, but this guy's had the last couple of good months, so we're going to take him instead. Nothing but to the topic. I thought Rion Combrink a few years ago was the best 15 in SA. I'll tell you what. I think that I'm very keen to see how he does with the Bulls, because I think he had a meteoric rise and then fell off a cliff. Young person could feature in the year into he performs. Yeah, and that I wouldn't have an issue with, because by then he would have played a full Curry Cup, assuming we get a full Curry Cup, and he would have played a good month in the United Rugby Championship, and you can then say, right, he's played 12 or 14 games at fly half. He's been the best fly half in the country. Come on tour. But not after 4 or 5 games in the last 12 months, of which none were at fly half, and then he comes to plays 2 games and suddenly boom. You got to be fair. Ross will go on the end of your tour. He's the closest to a Vermeulen mold. I'm interested to sort of see what we see at the end of the tour. Remembering that this is a 37-man squad, so the squad we've got at the moment is the size of the squad that will take at the end of the tour. So I think of all those players that were released, in theory, they would also be in the mix. But I think Vince, I think at the end of the tour, play outside players, which I'd like to maybe see is any two of a Vince Tuka, Ulrich Lowe, Pepsi Buthelezi, or Evan Lewis. If you can pick 2 of those and you can take them overseas, I think that exposure. I'm frustrated we're not playing a Barbarians game, so I think that would be really nice to be able to take those youngsters overseas and play them. How did Indycar and Ox get dropped? They were better than Kitsy and Valhobe on Saturday. Kits off Mahobe got own scrum time. Well, Ox he didn't get dropped. He's injured, so he's not available. And we discussed it earlier where I think that I think Francois Herbert probably does suit coming starting as well. And Trevor Nikani is not going to cover a loose head. Look, we have to see on the day, won't we? A week ago, everyone was freaking out over the fact that Trevor Nikani was picked, and Kits off Malherbe weren't. So, yeah, hopefully they all sort of jump on. Issa needs a Maori type player to expose more youngsters type team to expose youngsters to international games. Imagine Maori All Blacks versus Warrior Springboks. Yeah, I mean, we used to have the SAA, but when it was back in a genuine SAA, we also used to have the invitational side. We used to have an emerging 15 back in the day. But we must try and do it again. I think next year is the perfect year to try and have an SAA or something like that. And like you say, you can bring out the Maori All Blacks or the French Barbarians or Georgia, or USA or Canada, sort of those tier 2 nations. I think it's a very good idea. Harris is a dangerous player. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Harris. I think he's defensively very sound. He's got a bit of everything. I want to see there's a beast. The boy will give a box coach staff headaches. He covers 12, 13, 11, 14, and 15. He looked very good at full back. I'm hoping he settled at 13. But I think that we saw his versatility. He's just such an exciting player. Ball in hand, it's a big call. Ball in hand, and I'm not including the Springboks right now. I think he's the most dangerous player in South Africa. I don't think there's any other player in South Africa, and I'm including Edward van der Merwe and Tucker Abrahams and those sort of players. I don't think there's anybody who at defense worries as much as when he has the ball, because you just don't know what he's going to do. He's got that step inside. He's not necessarily the fastest player. He doesn't have raw pace. He's not slow, but he's just got that step, and he's got his handling. He always manages to find a gap and put a pass through. He's very, very exciting with the ball. Is Similani. I'm very excited for his future. We used to have a squad like that. Mercy Box, yeah, we talked about that. Future Box, Act 3, Vincent, Ulrich, Evan Lewis. How exciting! Oh no, it's going to be. We've got some proper players coming through. And then you can add Pepsi Buthelezi off the bench, for example. I hated Faf when he first hit the scene, but I look at him in the last few years. Next World Cup, loose forwards, Namaklava, Vincent Chikuka, and Evan Lewis. You heard it here first. Not a bad shout. We went through that. Thoughts on Ernst van Rijn as a future Springbok. He slowly works himself up as a consistent starter for the Stormers. Locks are going to be an interesting one. I mean, none of our locks are particularly old. I think Franco Master's in his 30. So he's turning 31 this year. Okay, Snam, he's in his 20s, so he'll still be around for a while. 26. Luat Diago is, I think, younger than Franco, but older than Sneyman, 28. And Evan Etzebeth must be around the similar age to Franco Masters. I reckon he must also be 29. Yeah, so Look, I mean, we don't really need locks right now, but in terms of the next generation of locks, I'm trying to think of who is coming through. I mean, people are talking about JD Strickling, but also not necessarily the youngest. I think Urs van Rijn, look, he's very young. He's 23, I think. So I'm keen to see what he does. I think he's a very nice player. I think he's a very solid player. I think he's a while off the box squad yet, but having that experience of captaining and stuff like that, it'll only do him good. We need Reinach above Herschel. Just dying here. Reinach has been consistently played well throughout the year and overseas. Fastest SA player in the back three currently. Ooh, acceleration, top speed. What do we reckon? I think top speed. I think over 100 meters. I reckon Mapimpi wins. I think Colby's probably the quickest out the blocks. I think Spirit and Corsi will match most of them, but I reckon that's what I would go with. Josh Adams must be scratching his head, wondering how he hasn't made 23 for 2 second tests in a row. You've got to feel sorry for him. I mean, absolutely sublime, scoring tries for fun, and still can't get a look in at that side. It's a very big call. You mentioned Reece Samet. I wouldn't have probably gone Reece Samet. I think he's very excited about it. I think it's a big occasion. Ruben Nokia for me is the best lock coming through. Yeah, I think Ruben Nokia. I think Reinhard Alstad's very good. I think that, jokes aside, I think that Ruben Schoeman for the Lions is finally starting to actually play like a half decent lock. You've got a lot of locks at the Bulls at the moment. Quite a few locks there. Old David Mayhazen at the Stormers is playing pretty well. If JJ Van der Mesh can get it right when he goes to the top 14, then he's a potential. Fussy raw top speed. Yeah, it'll be a hell of a race, wouldn't it? If we can just line up, Fussy and Speckman and Mapimpi and Colby and Corsi and just say, right, go for it. I mean, did anybody see Roscoe Speckman's try last weekend? Oh my living! When he absolutely, he gave. I mean, Bernard Koch must have given him about a keyhole of size, bang through there, and he literally round. I'm trying to think, who did he round? It wasn't Abrahams. Was it Fulmick? Yeah, I think he rounded Fulmick, who's not slow, by the way. I mean, jeepers. But we've always had incredibly fast. Louis Hammond is not ready for such high level, needs to play more games against top sides. Louis Hammond will go on 4 Lions tours if he can stay fit and fast. Maybe 3. 4 years, 3. Sorry, he's 20. He's what, 21? He's 20 at the moment. He'll go on 3 Lions tours. He's 20, so he'll go on in 3 years' time, 23, and again 27. Yeah, he could go on 4 Lions tours. Could Reece Hammond if he can use that speed. He's that good. And he's not small, he's quite tall, but he's not really now. I think that right now, he's one of those players that you had to take. Speckman try against the Stormers. Was it against the Stormers? No, I'm sure it was against Werner Koch that I'm thinking about. Or was it? Was it the outside centre? I don't know. It's all just been a bloody blur in the last week. So I can understand why that. I mean, you had to take him. He was playing too well, but I think that these sort of pressure situations, the last thing you need is Mapimpi running up towards Louis Zammit for the final try at the last minute. But the experience he'll gain from here, watch Reece Zammit in the next World Cup. He's going to be proper. Any player from the current junior Springboks that could push for a starting spot in the next Lions tour to South Africa? Yo, mate. That's in 12 years time. In the current junior Springboks that could push for a starting spot in the next Lions tour to South Africa. Yes. Well, even them, they'll be what, 20, they'll be 32 or 31. So I don't know. I mean, look, I think the most talented players in those junior blocks are your Jordan Hendrickse, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Andre Hugo Venter, what's his name? George Kinnear, the 8th man. I thought what's his name? Henko van Beek, the center. So those are sort of the players who I reckon are probably the most promising at this stage. So yeah, I mean those are the players I reckon could be in and around. I think Jordan Hendricks is a very exciting prospect, playing some pretty good rugby at the Lions. Will obviously his growth, his regression will slow down a little bit when Alton Yankees goes back, but I think he's a nice player coming off the bench. George Kinnear, if the Cheetahs, you should see if he stays the Cheetahs, and that's where I'm not getting to Ultimate Sharp to. He says, do you have a sniff of an idea where the Cheetahs are heading? I have no idea. Actually, half of the focus. There's been no update, no sort of any sort of thing really. So I've got absolutely no idea where they're going to go, what they're going to do. Yeah, I don't even know where they could go, to be honest. So David says fastest player over 100 meter Spoo 10.59, Chesn 10.7, Johnny May 10.71, Sam at 11.1, Watson 11.2. I actually remember reading an article that had 100 meter times. I'll tell you what. Yeah, I was about to say Hachiba Diamani, who's now at the Stormers, he's got a sub 1100 meters. It's so look, there are a lot of very quick players, but I remember, I think there are a couple of stuff like that. Dwayne did play against the Lions 09, but it was with Western Province. Yeah. So that was, and I think he got there was Andre Pollard referenced it, where you got sat on the floor. I can't remember who it was. I mean, Dwayne must have been what 21 at the time. He's 30, in fact, probably a little bit older actually. But Unan is 35, quick mass 32. 12 years ago, so he was 23. He actually wasn't even that young. You're right. Roscoe against the Sharks. Cock momentarily blind. Speckman's gone. Yeah, I thought it was Cock because it was seventh player and seventh player, which time, and then I'm pretty sure it was Fulming that he then went around. Sat down by Andy Powell. That's the name. I don't really remember it, to be honest. I remember trying to find the clip. I don't remember it happening there. So, what do you think of Nkosi, Mapimpi and Chesn as the 11, 14, 15 pair? I'll be interested to see what if they ever check it out. I think we've seen it once. No, we didn't see Mapimpi, I suppose. I don't know. I suppose it depends on if we sort of go with Colby at full back. I can understand the pros and the cons, but I don't know. It all comes down to the defensive, how well you can read defensively, because I think that's what we don't understand, how important Billy Roo is from a communication point. So if Chesn can grow into that goal, look, skill set, he's got everything he needs. But does he have the same sort of leadership and understanding of the game to be able to sort of do the role that Billy does? David says Hajiba Darmani should shift to left wing. He should get over the Vash line. I think they're looking at either wing or centre and stuff for him. I reckon he could be shifting quite a lot of positions there. But yeah, pretty much going to wrap up. So the last few nights, remember that night at Newton as well. It was a shoulder charge that was deemed illegal. No arm wrap attempted that result in the penalty, but boy, it was familiar and set it down. Do you see the Kirsten over the head offload against the Lions? I did see it. I think it is one thing. I kind of wonder why. It's a bit odd. I mean, it looks really cool when it goes off, and we want to see more of that. I enjoy a bit of shithousery every now and again. I mean, so it was cool, and I think that it's nice to see that we're going to have another flair fly half in the country. I think Kate Volata, I think it will be also interesting to see what he can see. But we've had so many years of, and I think that Curran Bosch played a lot better last week, where he also sort of was keeping the ball in hand. As much as the Springbok way, and as much as Andre Pollard thinks it's beautiful, I really would like to see some fly halves coming through that. I think we are, because I think schoolboys are now growing up, and no offense, but schoolboys are growing up and they don't want to be a Mornay Steyn. They're growing up and they want to be a Marcus Smith. They want to be a Finn Russell. They want to be a Richie Mwanga, which means that flair is starting to come through and that skill set is starting to come through across all positions, really. So I'm thinking we will see some more sort of players more in the mold of a Hurson, of an Alton Yankees, of those sort of players. So hopefully we'll start seeing some more flair with these. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. Nice chat. We'll be live again tomorrow. I'm going to be joined at this stage by Lecanio and Tyrone Rankin, who was on the channel about 2 weeks ago. So we're going to be chatting there tomorrow. So I'll see you guys all tomorrow. I'll confirm a time, stuff like that. It'll all be on the channel. When this ends, it'll go over to I've already put the link up for this weekend. I'll watch it on for this weekend. So you can go, then you can turn the notification on. So as soon as we go live, then you get a notification that says that we're live, and you can come hang out. So yeah, we had a really, really good stream last weekend. So I want to try and nail it even bigger this time. If you're in the comments, it means that you are subscribed, because you have to be to comment. But if you're not, then please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Content to look forward to tomorrow. We will have a I think there's stuff coming out of the Lions camp tomorrow. We won't have anything from the Springboks tomorrow. We'll have stuff from Lekanya and Damien Willemse out on Thursday. And then we'll start also some Curry Cup build-up, obviously. So that's what we can have to look forward to tomorrow. If you haven't gone and checked out the clips, honestly, go first of all. If you don't have time now, you can go into Forever Rugby. I'll put the link in the comments. I've uploaded a couple of the shorter clips, so I picked them out for you and stuff like that, so you don't have to dig through them. So you can go on Forever Rugby and go and look at those clips, but I strongly advise going and watching the full press conference today. Absolutely box office from Erasmus. It was really, really a good watch. So yeah, there we go. So, see you guys soon. Thank you very much for hanging out. Enjoy the evening. I know it was a bit of a late one, but we had everybody out here, so it wasn't too bad. Hopefully tomorrow will be a little bit earlier. Please do keep safe. Vaccinate if you can, so we can go back to stadium and stuff like that. And let's start the hype train for the weekend. It's Tuesday already, so this whole naming teams before just takes out away all the excitement. We'll just have to keep ourselves hyped over the next couple of days. Keep well. Chat soon.